Gun that changed the world, outdated but still worked. Did I load 8 rounds or did I load 9? French dominance was crushed after the Franco-Prussian War, but now it would return for a short time with the model Lebel 1886-1887, but it would soon become obsolete in a matter of years, but it did serve the French and the colonial troops as well. French had a new Minister of War, Georges Estienne Boulanger, and it was actually quite a slow adoption to the model 1886, and like most weapons, the smokeless powder weapon was not yet proven, but he did give it a chance, ordering a rifle and cartridge on his desk in about May 1886, which sent gun experts and manufacturers, even the chemists who knew what to do and how to make the powder, scrambling. The trials did go well, however, and the gun using the same framework as the Model 1885, it was just refitted, the barrel, the stock, and a few minor complaints were ironed out from the trials from the soldiers who shot them, and it was basically adopted in 1887. It shocked the world, and rightfully so. The French now had superior firepower driving forward the arms industry, and ironically leading to its own death of the Model 1886 not even 2 years later. An iconic arm of the French army, from propaganda posters to just pictures from the conflict itself, showcasing French soldiers and snipers with the Lebel in their hands, but it was however outclassed by its friends and their foes. The Gewehr, the SMLE, the Mosin was even far better. But the French wanted to make another leap into the arms race with an ambitious semi-auto rifle and the Berthet family of rifles, but the Berthet family of rifles and carbines was only completed before World War One, and that broke out, and World War One, having a large strain on the economy, meant that they could not pursue the semi-automatic rifles before World War One. But they did come up with a rifle, which was the RSC, which was in a nutshell kind of a semi-automatic Lebel rifle. It was literally using the same parts and the 8mm Lebel round, and it was cost effective and durable enough to make its way to the front, of course. So they did make their promise on the semi-automatic loading rifle, but it was not what they wanted. The Lebel, however, in World War One was pressed into service not with just France, but with the Belgians, the Russians, the Italians, whoever needed guns. The French would supply handguns and mostly guns to their Entente nations. Even the British had a few Lebels of their own. Of course, most of them were fitted with the standard issue cartridge of the nation, but if they could use Lebel rounds, they would use Lebel rounds as well. The tubular magazine was a defining feature of the rifle and is actually its biggest drawback because of the reload and to load it into battle. The load, well, basically the French army wanted the French soldier to actually carry their rifle empty and not to load it until they were in battle. Well, one reason, because there was no safety on the gun, and two, the old popular myth of shooting yourself in the foot was actually quite a real thing back in those days. So, this is the drawback. If there were to be ambush, let's say in Vietnam or Africa or somewhere, well, they didn't really fight against Africans in Vietnam. They were basically colonial subjects. But examples. So they were to be ambushed wherever, by whoever. They would have to now load at least 8 or 9 individual rounds. Well, they didn't have to load them all, but the time you took to at least load 5 rounds, you'll be shot dead. Unlike the M-block clips and the stripper clips of the day, which had their flaws as well, they could still load faster than the Lebel, like the Gewehr and the SMLE. So they could load faster than just a bullet at a time. They could load individual bullets, but normally if you expended 5 or 10 rounds, you would use 2 stripper clips, or you would use 1 stripper clip. The iron sights on the Lebel were actually hard to read and were pretty low to the body, which gave the rifle and the rifle soldier a hard time to actually read the distance and actually aim at the target properly. But even though it was trench warfare, you still had some distance, so you still had to aim slightly properly, and when you were going over the top, you still had to kind of aim at the soldiers in the trench. So is always something about the French and their handguards. They never do a handguard right. Something that the French never do was put handguards on a hot barrel, especially after shooting 8 or 9 rounds, or even like 200 rounds continuously. And they actually put a handguard with a updated version within the wall. It was still basically the same Lebel, but just with a handguard. But the hand would actually become hot And also with the hot barrel comes the expansion of the cartridge, which also jams the rifle as well. So, because of the negative factors during the 1920s and the 1930s, a depressed economy, reduced war, reduced budget, and under a popular front led by Leon Blum, and a neglected high military levels, notable for War Minister Marshal Philippe Pétain, the French army slowly started to modernize their infantry weapons. For instance, the production of the bolt-action Mass 36 became much more popular, even though it came much more late in 1937, though its prototypes had already been approved in 1929. As a result, the Mass 36 was the new French rifle of arms, and it would actually show up in World War II, even though the Lebel would still be there. Furthermore, the French tested some semi-automatic rifles, being the Mass 44, the Mass 49, and later would become the Mass 49 and 56, but the Lebel still remained even up to the Algerian Civil War. They also replaced the MLE 1886 with the FAMAS, but it was still remained. It remained on every front from 1944 until 1976. Later, during the Algerian War, the rifle was issued to local civilians of popular self-defense. There's still some functional Lebel rifles that were brought back from the mountains of Afghanistan. Sip, Huit, Nerf. Thanks again for watching this really weird episode of Weapons History, where we only covered the weapons history. Hope you like it. Next week we'll try and do some Russian weapons. Fedorov, Mosin Nagant revolver, the P90 heavy machine gun, and maybe I may put in the hunting shotgun if I can find a double barrel shotgun. I think there is a make of the double barrel shotgun in Russia, but I don't know, I just make it just a universal weapon and let every country kind of have those, but I'll put it in Russia for now. Anyway, hope you all had a good time, hope you learned something, and till next time, my dudes.